Well, welcome to the February 3rd Sumner County School Board meeting, a special meeting tonight. We will have a business meeting at the beginning, first starting off with swearing in, and then we'll move to our study session. So the first order of business is the swearing in of our new school board members. Oh, we're going to have a moment of silence. I just said that to Scott and totally lost it. So if you stand with me, please, a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first order of business is the swearing in, and Judge Oliver, if you'll make your way. Here, thank you, sir.
Would Wade Evans come forward, please? And Ms. Evans and Emily. Am I in the right spot here?
You can be wherever you want to, Judge. You are the judge.
You won't get right. You get right over here. Come on, stand over here.
Yeah.
Read the background. I, Wade Evans,
I, Wade Evans,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform with fidelity
that I will perform with fidelity
the duties of the office to which I've been elected,
the duties of the office to which I have been elected,
to which I am about to assume.
to which I am about to assume.
I do solemnly swear to support the constitutions
I do solemnly swear to support the constitutions
of Tennessee and the United States of America,
of Tennessee and the United States of America,
and to faithfully perform the duties of the office of the Board of Education, and to faithfully perform the duties
to faithfully perform the duties
of the office of the Board of Education,
of the office of the Board of Education,
representing the 4th Education District
representing the 4th Education District
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
And Judge Key, Bryant McCormick, I believe she will be swearing in the rest of our new school board members.
Will Shelley Young Tucker please come up, and family? Can we borrow that Bible we just said?
Don't worry, it's just, it's the same words, it's right, same words, same message.
Exactly.
I, Shelley Young Tucker,
I, Shelley Young Tucker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform with fidelity
that I will perform with fidelity
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
to which I have been elected
to which I have been elected
and which I am about to assume.
and which I'm about to assume.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
to support the
to
constitutions
support the constitutions
of Tennessee and the United States,
of Tennessee and the United States,
and to faithfully perform the duties
and to faithfully perform the duties
of the office of the Board of Education,
of the office of the Board of Education,
representing the 2nd Education District
representing the 2nd Education District
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, Greg Collins. And family.
My wife is taking over my coaching duties.
That's all right. We get it done in our own. All right, right hand, perfect. I, Greg Hollis,
I, Greg Hollis,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform with fidelity
that I will perform with fidelity
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
to which I have been elected
which I have
and which I am about to assume.
and which I am about to assume.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution
to support the Constitution
of Tennessee
of Tennessee
and the United States,
and the United States,
and to faithfully perform the duties
and to faithfully perform the duties
of the office of the Board of
of
Education,
the office of the Board of Education,
representing the 6th Education District
representing the 6th Education District
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Very nice. Thank you. Megan Brennan. And family.
Family.
All right, Megan here, everybody on this side. All right, your left hand on the Bible, right hand on here. I, Megan Brennan,
I, Megan Brennick,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform with fidelity
that I will perform with fidelity
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
to which I have been elected
to which I have been elected
and which I am about to assume.
and which I am about to assume.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution
to support the constitutions
of Tennessee and the United States,
of Tennessee and the United States,
and to faithfully perform
and to faithfully perform
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Board of Education,
of Board of Education,
representing the 8th Educational District
representing the 8th Educational District
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Kathy Stewart and Faith. All right. I, Kathy,
Swear
that I will perform with fidelity
that I will perform with fidelity
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
to which I have been elected
to which I have been elected
and which I am about to assume.
and which I am about to assume.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
to support the
to
constitutions
support the constitutions
of Tennessee and the United States,
of Tennessee and the United States,
and to faithfully perform
and to faithfully perform
the duties of the
the
office
duties of the office
of member of Board of Education,
the member of the Board of Education,
representing the 9th Educational District
representing the 9th Educational District
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I, Penny Barnes,
I, Penny Barnes,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform with fidelity
that I will perform with fidelity
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
to which I have been elected
to which I have been elected
and which I am about to assume.
to which I am about to assume.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
to support the constitutions
to support the constitutions
of Tennessee and the United States,
of Tennessee and of the United States,
and to faithfully perform
and to faithfully perform
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of the Board of Education,
of the Board of Education,
representing the 10th Education District
representing the 10th Education District
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
of Sumner County, Tennessee.
So help me God.
So help me God.
just a minute, get the paperwork signed.
Yes, got some paperwork. Well, while we're signing paperwork, I do want to acknowledge in our audience, we have Senator Farrell Hale, our state senator. Thank you, sir, for being here. We've had a full day today. Groundbreakings, and then we have Ben Harris, our county commission. Okay, and please tell me if I'm missing any other besides us elected. Okay, do want to acknowledge, thank you for being here tonight. Oh, Jimmy Overton, Gallatin Council, elected. And of course, Judge Oliver and Judge Key Bryant McCormick. We appreciate you swearing in. Thank you. Dr. Langford, our new school board members will take their seats. Welcome. Yeah. No, y'all are the papers. Okay, let's be seated. Our next order of business in the business meeting part is the election of our chair and vice chair of the Sumner County School Board. So I open the floor for nominations, and I'd like to start with nominating Andy Daniels for chair of the Sumner County School Board.
Second.
Thank you, sir. We have a second. Any other nominations? Mr. King.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I don't know if we can take this vote. I've had some citizens reach out and bring to my attention that there is currently an open investigation being conducted by the DA of Sumner County into the alleged voter fraud, election fraud by the candidate for District 8 in regards to allegations that she was not a bona fide resident of District 8 at the time of the election, and thereby did not qualify as a resident of that district as defined under Tennessee law. And this investigation, it's my understanding that it's being taken very seriously by the district attorney. There are 105 voters in the district that signed and submitted a petition requesting I think the legal term is quo warranto action to be taken against the District 8 candidate. I would like to hear from legal counsel. I notice our board attorney's not here tonight. To advise us on how to proceed and conduct the business of the board between now and the outcome of the investigation. You know, what happens if that seat is declared vacant?
Mr. King.
If we've been conducting business and
Mr.
making
King.
decisions, would those decisions be rendered invalid? We have to come back
Well,
and...
Mr. King, I believe that we are innocent until proven guilty in this nation. So,
I'm
I
not
have
accusing,
not
I'm saying
seen-
there's allegations, there's an open investigation. So
and
if we vote on something,
We're not-
we have to come back and re-vote, is what I'm saying, if that seat is declared.
tonight we're going to vote on the chair and the vice chair for the Sumner County School Board.
I understand
So
that.
thank you for taking time to read that. Thank you. Okay, so we have Mr. Daniels, who has been nominated. Anyone else? And a second by Mr. Lacy. Thank you, Mr. Lacy. All in favor of Mr. Daniels being chair of the Sumner County School Board, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Daniels,
Thank you.
this is yours.
Thank you. I want to take a second just to acknowledge our previous board members who stepped down. Ms. Hayes has been vice chair for a number of years and has done a wonderful job. And I look forward to serving this board and this community during the next year. Moving forward, we're going to go ahead and accept nominations for vice chairperson. And I'll open the nominations by nominating Ms. Tammy Hayes for vice chair. I've got a second. Any additional nominations? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Congratulations, Ms. Hayes. You are Vice Chairman.
Thank
And that
you.
concludes our special called meeting. Ms. Hayes, would you like to say something?
Yes. It is a privilege and honor to serve this community and to serve as vice chair of this board. I'm looking forward to the great things that we're going to do, continue to do, Sumner County Schools. So if you'll allow me, Chairman, to read something that you all know, we're Georgia Dog fans. So Kirby Smart, who is the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, recently said, "The cost of leadership." And great leaders have to accept the cost. Number one, you will have to make hard decisions that negatively affect people you care about. Number two, you will be disliked despite your best efforts to do the best for the most. And number three, you will be misunderstood and won't always have the opportunity to defend yourself. My prayer that each of us would seek the Lord for wisdom and discernment in the decisions that we make on this board. And there is a cost to leadership, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. All right, we will go ahead and open up the study session. Meeting's called to order. This is a study session, so this is a non-voting session. So we will open up with the first item on the agenda, which is the director's overview. Dr. Langford?
Yes. Let me, sure.
Yes, this is a good time to.
Y'all will stay.
All right, Dr. Langford, it's your turn to speak, and everybody cleared out. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign.
It's kind of like when I used to preach. This happens sometimes. First off, let me say, when we were at Portland earlier today, our three groundbreaking ceremonies were very unique, based on the community, just like we've seen with everything else. Very exciting to see. Hendersonville High School, we had marching band, we had cheer, we had dance, we had kids out there, Beechwood football players, we had some other students that have been very involved in advocating for our stadium projects, and then a lot of community in Portland, very similar. We had some middle school football players who did a fantastic job representing Portland. Each one was unique, but I was thinking Mr. Gregory was there, and I was thinking for the first time since I think 2006, Mr. Gregory's not here, along, Mr. Wise and Mr. Brewer, who were here for 16 years, Ms. Hawkins, Ms. Andrews, who were also here for quite a while. It's the largest turnover, we think, in Sumner County history in terms of school board. So we're at an opportunity, we're at a place where we can begin to think about what's next for Sumner County schools. And I think it's an exciting, if you look at Mr. Lancaster planted the seed for us to honor Mr. Wise and Mr. Gregory at the Portland White House game a few weeks ago, and it was really nice. I did a little bit of research of what had happened over their tenure on the school board, and like the average employee salary in Class 5 was $7.25 when Mr. Gregory started on the school board. We're now at $16. We spent $25,000 a year as a district on technology. Now we're one-to-one with iPads. We invest significantly in technology and other cutting-edge programs for our kids. We've done just remarkable work And that's a testament to the work of those who came before in the previous decade on school board. We're very thankful for them. We're also very excited to have 6 new school board members, and it's going to be a transition for us as a school board and as a district. I'm very excited. I'm thankful that we got a couple hours to work together on orientation. And I wanted to run through, just for the board, some of the ideas that we've tossed around on my cabinet. And then, since it's a study session, get some feedback from you as the board on what you would like to do and see. Historically, the way that we have done board orientation is to bring everybody new that's elected in, which is usually 1 or 2, and give you a big binder of stuff and walk in one at a time and share with you everything that each department does. And this is the leader, and this is what they do. And it's kind of overwhelming, and it's hard. School budget is hard to understand. I mean, it's not hard to understand, it's just a lot. The operations of Sumner County School are just massive. Some of the statistics you hear is transportation each day drives 9 round trips to Disney. On next Friday, payroll will pay 5,800 employees. Probably 70–80% of those had a significant change in their pay, and they've spent the last month working hard to make sure that that's correct and that we can get it out on time. At any given time, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we had our first day with 2,300 kindergarten students completing their first full day of school. The scale of what we do is pretty remarkable. And I think the best way, I was thinking, if I were a board member, what would I want to do and see? And it's not so much a couple hours in a room to hear statistics and numbers, but it's to actually get to meet the people that are the heart and soul of our school system. And I think that's not just for the new school board members. I think that that's good for everybody. I also think, Mr. Hyde the other night at the commission, right after he was elected to be chair, one of the action items was getting together. We used to do this a long time ago, getting together with the commission and the school board to tour a school, have lunch together, just get to know each other and talk. And so one of the things that I put forward as a proposal, I think several of you have shared, what are we doing strategically? What is the board's role in the strategic planning for the district? How do we as a board, or how do you as a board, identify what our strategic goals are for the district? And then how do we share that and then get direction from you? And, I am thankful, I am blessed with the best team that I could imagine you could have in the state of Tennessee or the country. Each of the people at that table and over here, and the ones that aren't here tonight, do the very best work, and I would put them up against anyone in the state or country for the work that they do to lead our school system. So they've got great ideas too. But it's hard because we all have, y'all have jobs, we have a large school district to run. It's hard to carve out that time to get together. So what we would propose, knowing that no one will be able to make all of them, is putting together a list of proposed study session board meeting topics that we can go ahead and put in place and work around, knowing that we will add some. Obviously, we'll have a bunch of policies that we'll have to review as state law changes, and we want to make changes to those policies. But to have something set on each agenda to listen to the great things that are going on in the district, but then in that week, go to 1 or 2 of those schools. We can take a bus, or we can meet there, and we can go see Rigsby, go see kids learning how to read in 1st grade or kindergarten, go see what our middle school math curriculum looks like, go see what high school's doing in our career technical education programs, go see an AP class. We got to honor AP scholars last month. Let's go sit in an AP class. I made what I think is the worst deal I've ever made in my life a couple months ago. We agreed that Ms. Skinner is going to teach a high school class, and I'm going to teach a kindergarten class. This was a terrible decision on my part, because like 15 minutes in, she's going to realize, I could have done this. This is pretty easy. And 15 to 20 minutes in, the kindergartners are going to discover that I'm not really serious about classroom management, and I'm somewhat terrified of kindergartners. I love them, but I don't even begin to suspect how to teach them. But it's going to be, it's great opportunity to get to see the teachers at work doing what they love to do and to see the fruition of the work that we do here. Because I think a lot of times, I always thought it was hard when I was on the commission, because basically what we do there is approve money. It's hard to see how that connects into the lives of individual people. The good thing about the school board is we vote on things that directly impact the lives of our kids. And so getting to go and see that and see how it impacts our staff, those are some things that we would like to do. I would also like for us, I'll probably have Jeremy reach out to y'all in the next week or so and look for some time that we can do a board retreat like we've done in the past. Probably a one day. I think it's ambitious to try to get more than one day given everybody's work schedule, but try to find a time where an overwhelming majority of us can get together and devote a day to learn and then to set some strategic goals. We are working on my cabinet, which are the people here plus the ones, you know, Mr. Brown couldn't be here tonight, Mr. Grasty's out of town, Mr. Ott's out of town, but to get together and on our behalf, and we're working on alignment, right? Because when we're not aligned at the top, it creates gaps in what we're trying to do in schools. And so we're working very hard for us to be aligned in the way that we communicate, in the way that we work, in the way that we utilize resources. Because every penny we can save, every dollar we can move, every material resource we can move around, it not only saves taxpayers money, but it makes us more efficient in the way that we deliver services to our kids. And ultimately, the more services we can deliver to our kids, the better off we are as a school system. So I think that y'all play a very vital role in that. I am sorry that we didn't do that last year. You know, chalk that up to a first-year superintendent learning the ropes himself. I don't know that I've had a job where I've learned as much as I did last year, right? I had done some small projects when I pastored. I had supervised the renovation at White House High School for 18 months when I was first principal at White House. I'd never done anything to the scale of what we've done, what we kicked off today with athletic facilities. Never done what we did with our historic investment in compensation increases. So I'm thankful for the staff because they carried us. I'm thankful for the board for your support. And looking forward to the great things that we can do moving forward, because I think there are a lot of conversations that we're going to have. Ms. Hayes, and the thing that you read, there are some decisions that we have to make that won't always be popular. But we can have those hard conversations when we've deliberated and worked together to get to the very best solution. I would like to see us, you know, one of the things that I would ask is that we start by trying to find common ground. Everyone here was elected to represent a district in Sumner County. And I am thankful that since 2009, from 2009 until 2018, I worked in White House. And I loved every moment that I served in White House. I went to school there. My dad was principal. I was principal. I got to coach football. It was wonderful. Loved every day of it. Since 2018, I've gotten to serve and go around the county. And what I've learned is there's nothing that I enjoy better than watching Westmoreland High School graduate. It's special. You know, going to the events that Portland does that pull the whole community together. Seeing, I also love Gallatin's graduation. It's our most diverse school, and to see the way that they chest bump teachers and coaches and the love and respect that they have for each other. And I could go through each school, Station Camp in Hendersonville, Merrill Hyde, Beach, each school community, White House, each school community has a very distinctive culture that represents everything that is powerful and good in Sumner County. And to piggyback off what Ms. Hayes says, let's spend time seriously trying to find that common ground and respecting each other and respecting the districts that we represent, because each district has spoken and each district has chosen who they want to represent them. And I think we have the opportunity to move away. I don't think anybody wants to repeat the last 2 years, if I'm just speaking the God's honest truth. We are better than that as a county. I will own my part. I can absolutely do better at seeking common ground and finding ways to work through problems. We can be more creative, we can be more civil, we can be more deliberate, and we can do things in a way that shine and showcase the greatness that I believe Sumner County is. And I believe that about each of you as well. So I say all that to say that I don't have a tremendous amount tonight to just say on director's overview, but I did want to set the tone for that. And I wanted you to take, if you have any things that you would like to see that you know right now, We can throw this. I put draft on here intentionally because this is a first stab at a schedule. But if you have some other things that you're interested in, that would be a great time if you want to throw out some ideas or thoughts or topics. I'd love to hear those, and we'll revise the schedule and get it back out.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Daniels. Okay, this was a quick look through. The CTE programs, is that on here? Are we gonna like go around and see some of the,
It will be.
I wanna fly the aviation, I wanna do the aviation thing. But the culinary arts, or just highlight some of the CTE programs. Thank you, sir.
I'm a big fan of the culinary arts, by the way. Big fan. Mr. Lancaster?
The one thing that and it could be that it's probably in with federal programs as well, but if we had something that specifically addressed special needs, that would be a good one. And also maybe, I know we talk tons on athletics, but maybe one that is devoted to just all things extracurricular athletics / arts, like things that we, some of us may not, like heck, every day I learn something new that some of our students are doing, either in art programs or athletic programs. The other question and or comment, I'm really excited about this board retreat, specifically the goal. I'm a goal guy. So do we have I know we don't have a date, but do we have are you hoping September, October?
Yeah, I was thinking October, November.
Okay.
October's a little, fall break takes out a week. But if we can do October, I would prefer October, but we may have to.
I was going to say October would be great, because I know once you get November, then you get holidays, and you're almost halfway through the year and trying to set goals that,
Right.
in reverse. So if we can make October work, that would be really good. So anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Mr. King?
Yeah, same thing. That's what I was going to say. Special needs. Had a lot of folks ask me, why are we not spending more time discussing special needs? I know there's former member, Mr. Graham, brought it up quite a bit. That and just, there was talk about the bringing in outside therapy for our special needs, some of our special needs students. I'd like to explore that more. I've had parents who've called me and said, I want to put my child in Sumner County, but they don't have the services, and so maybe we can find a way to meet their needs. And so I would love to have that on the at some point on this.
Pupil services captures special education, so that's on there in February, but we can certainly move that up. It's not a problem.
Mr. Evans?
Yeah, would like parental and guardian services, would those fall under one of these?
Could you say more like what you're thinking?
So, mental health is a great example. And we have services for our youth, but what kind of services do we have and provide for our guardians and parents?
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll definitely add that.
Anybody else? I would mention, Dr. Langford, if maybe you could share, like, if there's certain dates during the year, calendar dates or meetings where we tend to focus on certain items, such as, typically we vote in the fall on school calendars. Obviously, budgets in May. We look at insurance for our school system usually in October, November. So just highlight, because I knew with some of our new board members, they maybe ask questions about, do we have the new calendar yet? Or when are we going to vote on that? And it'd be good for them to have an idea to be able to say, hey, here's when this is typically discussed.
Yeah, I think Ms. Skinner, y'all are close on the graduation calendar. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We used to hold on to that for a long time. It was tradition to wait until after snow days, but it makes it really hard for parents to schedule hotel rooms and things like that. And we haven't had an abundance of snow days that have ever pushed us near the edge of our allocated snow days. So, and I don't know that we would move graduation even if those seniors are ready to go by that third week of May. And I think we could go ahead and work through that. But yeah, and I think we will probably, I need to talk to Ms. Brown, but we'll probably do the insurance at this next meeting. We have that ready, I think. Yeah. But yes, and then the calendar, you will get 1 million questions about the calendar. And I will tell you, thank God that I don't have to do the calendar anymore until it goes to this level, because the calendar is one of those things that everybody thinks can be done better, but when you constrain yourself, like we don't like to go after Memorial Day, and we like 2 weeks at Christmas, and we like a week at Thanksgiving, and there's a couple other restrictions, which then means you can only count to 180 so many different ways. And so we have to get creative to get there sometimes, but we generally do. But the calendar is a great piece for conversation. We'll also have the high school curriculum guide right around the same time, and then budget usually in May. Last year we did a capital projects presentation in April. I think that was good. So we'll try to keep some of those things, because especially the first budget, it's a lot of information to take in, and we want to have time to have conversation in your districts and everything as well.
Mr. Lancaster?
That kind of lead into my question or thought anyway, but you know, when we start talking about budget in May, I understand we have to wait until the end to know what we're going to anticipate revenue and that sort of thing. But if we could have a, you know, with HR or somewhere in January, like hey, this is what we're hoping we can do. This is what we want to do from a, you know, we can have a budget discussion or study session early on just the expense side of things, and saying, you know, if everything's perfect, you know, we can, this is what the goals would be for budget, so that we're kind of know those big ticket items or those big things that we're wanting to address and try to work towards with, you know, both the state legislature and the county government to make sure that they're aware of, like, hey, this is going to cost us this, you know, so maybe, you know, prior to the legislature being in session and all that, if we just kind of get some ideas on how much those things would cost. Like, hey, we know we got teachers that have got to go to at least 50 next year, hopefully more, but at least 50 by state law, and you know, we've still got work to do to get to where we are just on our comp study with, you know, going from 16 to 18 for, you know, to be where we would like to be with the comp study, and just the other things, and just have dollar amounts on what that would cost us for each one of those boxes.
Yeah.
So that we could kind of address that with people, so that we're not sitting in May saying, hey, we need X amount of money, or it's going to cost us X amount of money, and they're like, well, you know, this is the first, y'all just sprung this on us, you know. I think if we could have it, you know, attack it from a standpoint of it's going to cost us this to do this, it's going to cost us this to do that. That way people kind of have time to digest it and think about how we can get there would be beneficial.
Yeah, and I think we went earlier than we've ever last year. I think some of the things we did last year was this tax reappraisal year, and that slowed down our revenue. Usually we have a lot better picture of where our revenue is going to be in April, May. We'll also, this will be our third run with TISA, so we'll be, now I mean, fingers crossed, because right now T-Impulse that the state uses to pull our EL students and specialists is not working correctly, so.
Do we think TISA will be, is there a time that they say, hey, we would like to get you a number by, usually it's April, right?
No, well, they give us preliminary estimates, usually starting in. Yeah, they changed the timeline some. Like usually we get a first snapshot, I think in February. But the problem that we're running into, I was at a superintendent's meeting a few weeks ago, and I've actually got TISA, an overview on TISA at the next study session. I'll just go ahead and tell you it's not going to be the most barn-burning study session we're ever going to have. It's not very exciting, but it's important. The thing that we're running into is that TASER sets the local contribution, And some of the other large districts are a little frustrated with the way that it moved last year because it cost us 1.35 million. It cost Williamson 4-something million. And the problem is large districts typically are way above maintenance of the minimum maintenance of effort. So like for instance, when that 1.35 million comes out, it doesn't come out of where the county has to provide additional revenue. It comes out of what we generate on our side. And so there's some conversation, and some of this will be solved just because TISA is so new. We'll get a little bit better snapshot, and hopefully we'll be able to forecast that a little better. But yeah, I think we can absolutely do that. And the good thing is with the compensation study that we did last year, we've got a pretty good idea for what it costs to go to $17 or $18 an employee. We can turn those numbers around. What it costs to go to 50,000 or 51 or 52 for teachers. We can look at those numbers and have pretty solid. I think we can easily. I thought it was really helpful for us as we worked on the budget last year to have already shared with the board what we were thinking about for compensation. And I think I don't anticipate there being huge capital items like we did last year with $14.5 million in capital projects, and then another 15 last year and then 20 this year on athletic facilities.
I just, in my head, and like I say, I'm a numbers person, so I just, if I could envision the pieces that we got to get, the pieces that we, almost like a minimum, a little bit better than minimum, and oh my goodness, this would be great if we could do.
Yeah.
And just have those kind of laid out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm hopeful that we as board members can kind of develop relationships with our commissioners and especially our education committee and budget committee people, and try to get them involved in understanding of the needs and of the district for the year and the goals. So that's my pep talk.
Thank you. Mr. King?
Yeah, I'll just concur with Mr. Lancaster. It's hard. We have 1 week before we vote on the budget. It'd be great to get some information, like he was saying, something prior to May 13th, just so that we have a little bit more than a week to look at this massive budget. As you recall, we discovered there was a problem after we voted on the budget this past year, and that we can't afford for that to happen again. And so if there's anything, like you said, any kind of information, especially for our new board members, any information we can get prior to May 13th on maintenance of effort, capital outlay, just some of the categories perhaps. And maybe that's something if we do a board retreat, maybe we can talk about that as it pertains to our strategic goals. Here's a goal. It's we want to have a ballpark idea budget-wise sometime in early April. I'm just kind of brainstorming, but that would be helpful, I think, and I think that would just make things much more efficient. So I agree with that. Thanks.
Also have your kindergarten class picked out when you go to, I already know I got the perfect one. Oh, I've got it. I apologize.
I couldn't hear you, so that's all right.
I got kindergarten.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you, Dr. Langford. Next item on the agenda is Dr. Langford again, Stadium Inspection Report and Update.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was very ambitious last week, hoping I could get this turned around to have it in a spreadsheet format for you. But my daughter got married, and I'm discovering that at 52, I don't have the same energy that I had 10 years ago. So I will tell you that Mr. Brown and his team have inspected every one of our stadiums. And they followed what was put out by the structural engineer in each stadium. Obviously Beach Hendersonville and Portland Homeside are being addressed through our athletic facilities project, but the others weren't inspected. We were able to repair White House, so that one section is open fully, and then Gallatin. If you go underneath Gallatin, you will marvel at the efficiency or the effectiveness of railway steel, because it picks up surface rust, but once you sandblast it and seal it, at the end of the day it's steel, so it's not going to too impressive, but it's, it's very solid. And then we were able, Andy's team was able to do a lot of welding, a lot of repair work under there. We did some work on some of the eaves where there was rotting. We replaced bleacher tops, sanded and painted the rails. The stadium looks really good, and so we're thankful for the work that they did. And it evidently worked. Gallatin had a win on Friday night, and
They did Mayor's Cup.
yeah, won the Mayor's Cup. Anyway, the stadiums are in great. It was exciting today to break ground on our projects. Just so you know, let me give you a little bit of update on the stadium work, how it will begin. It will be different at each school. So for instance, at Beach, they're going to be able to begin fairly quickly, because if you go behind the football stadium, we're doing all the dirt work for a future track there, and there's a lot of dirt work that they can do up to the stadium because they've just got space. And so they're going to be able to go ahead and get started. On the flip side of the stadium, they're going to be able to get started there as well. So I've already warned everybody, you will hear this. There is nothing convenient about a construction project. It stinks all the way around. It will be inconvenient for everybody. But I think the thing that I tried to emphasize at each of the groundbreakings today is a lot of counties, when they faced stadium issues, have shut down home football games at that stadium and just rebuilt it. We've maintained those stadiums for the kids to be able to play on their home field this year, and the sacrifice of that is we're going to try to get as close as we can to the field with the renovation so that we can get done for next football season. Portland and Hendersonville will start a little slower just because of the confines of the stadium. We're hopeful that we're going to be able to knock down that hill behind the home side at Hendersonville and block that off, and block that little road off. That's going to be really inconvenient. If you represent Hendersonville, you're going to get some questions about that. But I think what you have to remind everybody is sometimes we have to take a step back in terms of getting everything done for the future so we can get it done in a timely manner. Hendersonville also is it has the most intense work to be done because we're moving all the football operations under the home side of the bleachers. So there's a lot of work to be done there. So we're excited about that. I think I mentioned this last time, but just so we're on the same page, Gallatin track, Station Camp track will bid in January. The board will vote on that bid in February. We hope to be able to put the surfaces on in June and July, get all the work. I don't know that I explained this well last time. The work doesn't start in June. The work goes ahead and starts, but you can't put the rubberized surface down until the warm weather months. So we want to be able to get that done in a timely manner. We will bid Merrill High tennis courts in January as well, and then we'll bid North Sumner in February. Also, for the same reason, we don't want to do that work until the kids are out of school for the summer. It'll be pretty intensive work. And if you've had a class full of, I would guess, fourth graders in April, somebody banging on the side of the building with tools would be, the teachers will appreciate that if we do that in the summer. We will, there are other, Mr. Brown, we had a preliminary capital meeting 2 weeks ago. Mr. Brown is working on a priority list. We completed $14.5 million of capital projects that were not related to athletic facilities last year. So obviously we're not going to be able to commit that much this year, but we have paving projects we need to do. Very high on the list. We drove through Beach today. Some of those beach areas are high on the list. There's a couple others that are high also. So paving, HVAC, roofs, lights, flooring, different things like that we're working on a priority list like that. We will start, I believe, next week on strategic planning meetings with our principals, and we'll get a little bit of a view of what they're identifying as the major capital projects on their campus as well.
Mr. Lancaster?
Yes, since Station Camp is one I get a lot of questions on, can you tell me what I know we have a timeline for the track, but there's also a timeline to get the field or the drainage issue. Is that going to be basically December, do we think, or right after the season's over?
So we'll bid it in January. So we'll do all that project together. So it'll be the field work and the track all at the same time. They have to kind of move together, and basically on that football field, it just needs to be completely redone. The irrigation leaks terribly. it's not crowned properly. Like, a football field is supposed to crown like this in the middle and then come up on the edges to make water flow. Basically, there's no crown. It sits like this, and then it dips on the edges. So it's the worst possible grading for a football field because it drains water. It stands on the field, and then it drains where it does drain. It drains underneath sections of the track and causes it to crack.
Well, you can definitely tell the drainage areas that they're bad because they're just part of the track is horrible. And
yeah, Coach Bain took me on an extensive tour, and he showed me you turn on the sprinklers and there's 3 places where it forms a lake because there's just, it's a deep break in the irrigation line, and it's a problem that we need to repair.
the other question is the plan for Merrill Heights tennis court to be TSSAA regulations, not regulations, where you can host a tournament like a.
Yeah, there's not room for 4. I can't, because the TSSAA has some crazy rules on tennis, and they're going to run into a problem that there aren't going to be 5 places in the state because most cities are converting tennis courts to pickleball courts at a rapid rate, and it's getting harder and harder to find places to play tennis. Like, like for instance, Portland High School is going to Orlando. Orlando is getting rid of theirs. Tennis courts are expensive to keep up, and so I think we should be able to host, but I don't know like a regional because I think they require 4. And the space, I believe at Merrill Heights, I'll have to double check on this, but the space only allows for 3 courts.
Okay. So then maybe not host like a
region
when
or
I say
something.
a tournament, but not a quote unquote.
They could do everything except maybe like a regional tournament or something.
Okay.
But I really think the TSSAA is going to have to revise those rules because I don't think there'll be in 5 years. I don't think there'll be enough places that, outside of Brentwood and some other places. We can host at the city of Hendersonville.
I'm just curious. So we'll put the bids out for these tracks February, and they'll start work in late May or whatever. But how do we anticipate them having that completed before next year? I mean, I don't know what it takes to build a track or how long, but I mean, do we feel like that will be that build? Those tracks will be finished, completed before the next school year begins.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Next item on the agenda, discussion and/or action regarding policy 4.214, use of artificial intelligence programs on first reading.
I think we're back to, if you grew up like me on war games and you couldn't quite conquer the world with a Commodore 64, but who knows now. This is something that there's a new state law that requires us to have a policy on AI. Mr. Chris Brown, Ms. Katie Brown, Ms. Skinner, and I went to a conference in the spring centered on AI. A lot of exciting things out there, and I'll let them certainly share their reflections. A lot of exciting things out there, a lot of scary things. But the least amount of AI that there will ever be in Sumner County Schools is right now. So how do we craft a policy that helps us but doesn't hinder us? Because there's going to be AI. Let me come back at the end and wrap up. I don't know, Chris, Frankie, Katie, did y'all want to share anything? It's on the board.
I would just share that we don't need to be scared of it because it's coming and we don't want to try to ban it. We know what kids do when you try to ban something. And so creating a policy that is mindful of learning and exploratory and responsiveness is what I would encourage as we navigate artificial intelligence. But it will be part of our lives. It'll be part of their lives. It'll be part of families' lives. And so how do we navigate it responsibly and check and make sure we're using it in the best way that we can?
Yeah, one of the things that I feel like I heard over and over again at this conference was that we have to be proactive. We need to be learning about it. We need to be actively engaging in. So we need to encourage our staff to learn about it and engage in it responsibly. And so this policy has something about training around how to use it responsibly and how to reflect on how to teach students how to use it responsibly, because it's a valuable tool used in the right way, just like the whole internet. right? And so I think that being proactive instead of pretending that we can hold this back is really important, and having a policy that is flexible enough to allow for growth, because this is, again, something that's going to change very quickly, and I think that's important in the policy as well, is to be able to be responsive, but it's not restrictive.
I would also add that we have a lot of artificial intelligence right now. Like Google tells you how many minutes you're going to be before you get home. All of that is artificial intelligence. So it's not new. I think it's new in the education sector and how people are using it, but we've had artificial intelligence around for a little while.
Yeah, and I would just add that we are using TSBA model policy language. So just this is something that we've got. I've looked at quite a few district policies. They're using the same language, and it's meant to be general enough where we can be, as Dr. Langford mentioned, where we can be adaptable down the road without having to revisit this policy every meeting or every couple of meetings.
I think one of the first things that, when we started meeting with Apple a couple years ago about the iPads, they had this great picture that reminded of what we're facing with AI. It was a picture of a hotel room from the late 1920s, and it had a sign next to the electric lights that said, "Please don't light the candles." Because at one point, turning a light switch on and lights coming on was cutting edge technology. And then they had a graph which was alarming for me, is that right now in Sumner County schools, there are no kids that have lived in a world without iPhones. There are no elementary kids that have lived in a world without smartwatches. In a couple of years, there won't be any kids in an elementary school that haven't grown up where AI is part of our daily lives. And the question, I think, the biggest challenge that I think we face is, how do we keep AI human? Because I think, like I've thought about, for a kid that's dyslexic or a kid that has great ideas here but can't get them here, why would we not train them how to use a tool that will help them create their ideas and put it here? But it's very much like we said with the iPads. When we did the iPads, it's like, we don't want a better, faster testing machine than a Chromebook. We want to connect our kids' learning and help them harness what they use to make TikTok videos to be creative team workers, with understanding of a creative process, and empower each of our kids to be able to do that.
Mr. King?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we definitely do not need to be afraid of it. We need to adapt to it. We need to incorporate it. That's what we're doing at the college level. I have students that, for writing assignments, we're allowing them to cite ChatGPT or whatever. We're allowing them to use that. However, we also use, we have some anti-AI software and anti-plagiarism software. I'm just curious, do we have that? Do we use any of that kind of stuff in our, so how do we know a student didn't write a paper, and it was completely AI? And I've been given papers like that before. It's like the whole thing was nothing but AI written. And
yeah, I can't speak to an AI specific, because it is new-ish in the education setting, but I'm sure we have tools for just general plagiarism, but not specifically for artificial intelligence.
I think the good thing, that as high school kids get more sophisticated with their use of ChatGPT, we'll have to be more aware. We'll probably have to select some tools that'll do that. But right now, you can actually throw it into ChatGPT and say, "Was this generated by?" Most teachers I've talked to have said, like, my first year teaching was when encyclopedias went online, and I gave him a 2-page world geography report, and he copied it off the Encyclopedia Britannica, including the copyright information at the bottom of each page. And I asked him when he began working for Encyclopedia Britannica, and he said, "What do you mean?" Then I realized he didn't know what a copyright was, so we had to have it's quite a lesson. But I think that it's just going to be one of those things. It's going to be cat and mouse for a while. I just don't want to lose the risks of plagiarism versus the good that it can bring for our kids to learn. Go ahead, Frank.
I was just going to add, you can tell when a paper has been written by artificial intelligence. I think our teachers can too. So Speediacy with a program would actually be awesome. But I think teaching kids how to check the resources and what's reliable and what's not reliable from that setting will be important, and maybe won't get the plagiarism so much.
Yeah.
We use a software called Turnitin. It has an AI component.
Yeah.
The universities, we're not allowed to, if it's plagiarism, we can address it, but AI, we have to just raise a flag and just say, hey, this, and it goes to our admin, and they look at it, to double check. But I have noticed you can tell it's AI if it's just one big paragraph, no breaks, stuff like that. But and I do like how our policy includes training programs for teachers to learn that kind of stuff, to know what to look for. So I think that's good. So okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I just think it's an exciting way to think about the ways that we can harness it to take away some of the repetitious work that eats a lot of staff resource time, and I think we'll be able to identify ways for to make our staff more efficient by the use of AI, because it's really good already at certain things.
Mr. Lancaster?
A couple of questions or comments. One, I see we have an approved list of AI programs will be provided on the district website. So that's telling me that we are going to state specifically which ones we can't, like, for example, I know a lot of school districts researching on this, or, have banned, ChatGPT or different ones. Is the anticipation that we are going to be open to more, things? What's the anticipation on why something would be allowed versus not allowed, and who's making? Is that Chris?
Well, I think things like ChatGPT are public; they're free.
Right.
And so figuring out how to, I think that's different from a program.
So it's more of which ones are allowed from a
programming standpoint
versus like this is bad AI versus this is good.
Correct.
Okay. Hang on, we got Chris is chomping at the bit back here. Let's go back here. He's got a.
So the first thing I would clarify is that that's also part of the law, and that's part of that TSBA language, that we do have to present a list in some sort of public format. The language that is suggested in that policy is really about what we explicitly approve, not necessarily about services or resources that we don't block, if that makes sense. So something like a search engine may not necessarily be listed on an approved list, or ChatGPT or another public service or free service, but an application that we subscribe to would be.
Yeah, and I think, and Chris, Frankie K, jump in here if I misspeak. One of the concerns is if you take a platform like ChatGPT, it doesn't have any rules on what it does with what you input. So if you put a piece of your writing in there, it goes into the database, and it can be used in other things. So the concern that we have to be careful about is, for instance, like student data that's private. We don't need to dump personal student data into ChatGPT, because then it grabs it and it puts it into the database to be accessed, worldwide. So I think those are some of the growing pains that we'll have, is not to restrict its use, but to provide a safe environment for our students and staff.
Is on a second, I guess, no comment, question, whatever. I think the biggest potential benefit we can give these, kids before they get to college, is how to use it correctly. It's like, hey, because you can use ChatGPT as I know when I used to have to go to the library in college and do research to write a paper, you got on LexisNexis and or Google, but usually it was in college it's LexisNexis. It's like I need papers on this topic, and that's where that's what I saw the benefit of ChatGPT and some of these AI software is you just say, hey, give me 5 papers pro and 5 papers against whatever topic you've got, and it'll spit them out. And then, you know, you're not using it to write your paper. You're using it to shorten your research time. And
you just have to be careful because it will occasionally hallucinate and make up sort of.
Well, I mean, I'm not-
those lawyers found that out the hard way.
But if we got to a point where we say, look, here's how to responsibly, and I see that as using it responsibly, but also explaining, like, you know, when you get to college, you know, if you're going to make a mistake in borderline plagiarism or full-blown plagiarism, let's do it now in high school and not when you get in college, when you know, the ramifications are exponentially higher. So those are the things that, you know. And the other thing, I had one teacher reach out that was a high school teacher that's like, please kind of give us, you know, specific guidelines with it, because they're just worried that they're going to get just broad-based ways to implement or.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part, because it's like, it's not even like the Wild West. It's like the Wild West with no marshals. You know, it's just, I mean, I thought one of the mezzanine conference we were at, there were 300 vendors there, 85-90% female entrepreneurs. And they said next year there'll be 300 new ones. It'll be totally different companies, because that's how fast this marketplace is taking off.
So we do have that space where they're requiring the computer science credit now, and so that's coding. Well, AI will code for you, so we're really trying to ease into that before it's obsolete. So just putting that on your radar to think about. That's why we're kind of slow walking it, because it might change. The state kind of puts stuff out there outdated sometimes. We do want coders, but it's specific, right? But AI will do that for you. And so do we teach kids how to use artificial intelligence to be great coders, or do we have them store it up here? So just conversations that we're thinking about and having.
Mr. Hollis?
Yeah, I'm just going to add, usually when you talk about artificial intelligence, you think about plagiarism and having, you know, write something for you. But recently, I have a math background, and my niece called with a, you know, a junior level algebra question, and I just put the problem in ChatGPT, and it step by step shows you how to solve it. So there are, like, I like your point is, you know, depending on how you can use it, there are really good learning. You can use it as a learning tool as well, and kind of specify areas where it isn't appropriate and areas where it is not appropriate to use, and just expand from there. But it is very handy tool.
Saves a lot of time.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, it does help with 7th grade algebra. Ms. Brink?
Yeah, I've got a couple of specific questions in the document. The first one is around only approved AI programs may be utilized in student instruction or completing student work. Does that mean that anything that isn't approved could be used on school equipment if it's not for those two categories? So for example, an extracurricular.
So elaborate on that if you don't mind.
Yeah, so maybe there's a DECA program and they want to use an AI tool that has not yet been through the vetted process. Can they use that on their school iPads or in their school computers?
So if there's a couple of ways that we would approach that. If it's something that we have not explicitly denied, then yes, they would be able to. Obviously, if there are services that are not appropriate for our students or even staff use or anything like that, then we would restrict those. And then if they're on our equipment or on our network, then that would not be available.
Okay. Further down, you talk about with staff use that output shouldn't be incorporated into proprietary content or works. Are we also coaching that proprietary content should not go into AI tools?
I think that's probably an ongoing conversation. And we've had this conversation in education for decades, which is copyright use, and protecting intellectual property. I will tell you that I think that one of the positives of AI will be is it will make it a lot harder for fall. Like, there are going to be a lot of chorus programs that are going to get busted for using Disney because nobody patrols their copyrights like Disney. And band programs with sheet music that comes from different composers. I think that this will give, because I'm thinking if I have intellectual property that's out there, I can probably create a tool that will check constantly all over the internet to see where, where when some parent makes a YouTube video of their child's band performance and it goes out there and then somebody finds out, hey, you stole 18 bars of my my composition. So I think it'll work the other way, but yeah, I think we'll have to continue. In a way, it's just a new modern conversation opposed to like, hey, you can make one copy for academic use, but you can't make 35 copies every day and use someone's entire book. If that's the case, we need to buy the book for the class.
Under academic integrity, it's talking about how students shall be instructed on responsible standards. Are teachers allowed to opt out of AI for a class? So for example, we've got this policy that says students can use AI with these guidelines. Can a teacher say, for my class you may not use, or for this assignment you may not use?
100%. Like we would have that, like sometimes in class you would see, this doesn't happen as much as it used to, but like, I don't want you to use, well, I mean, we do this in elementary all the time, middle school, like, we don't want you to use calculators on this, we want you to learn the concept. So I would think the same thing. It's like, hey, you can't use ChatGPT to write this prompt. I think what you will see, which I actually think is better writing instruction anyway, is writing in class a shorter assignment. Because I think like, I would love to say that there's a Turnitin or something that will catch, but you can, if you have the paid version of ChatGPT, you can dump your writing into it and it will learn to write like you. And I heard a New York Times editorial writing saying that it was about 95% him. And then he had to go in and tweak and personalize it and fix some things, but it was pretty close to what he would have said. So, I think it's very reasonable for a teacher to say, I want you to learn how, I don't want your essay to take you 13 seconds to write.
Yeah. I'd love to see that in the policy, just so that it's very clear that teachers have the opportunity to opt out based on from assignment to assignment.
Yeah.
And then I just want to thank you guys for attacking this with open minds, because this is such an important part of the next generation's life cycle when it comes to school and work and how we are going to exist in this new reality. So we have to address it, and I think you've done a great job, and this is a good starting point.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's fascinating to think about how used to, like, I mean, if I just tell, I've shared before, maybe not to our new board members, but like I was a nerd in middle school. I got my calculator watch when I was in 7th grade. I thought I'd arrived at a Commodore 64, and I decided that I wanted to design video games. I went and got a book on binary code and whatever computer programming language. I spent all my Christmas money on it one year, and I never coded anything because I realized like putting together a string of ones and zeros didn't mean anything to me. But to think that kids that have ideas here that want to generate video games or apps or different things like that, to be able to generate what's in their mind and not having to have the technical skill to do it, it's pretty exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Mr. Evans?
Yeah, just at the bottom, notice of parents and reporting. Kind of two questions with this. One, it says you'll be posting them on the district website for what's approved. And then two, from a reporting standpoint, are you saying you're only going to be submitting that list once a year, or is it going to be updated more frequently? Or what would be the approval process if a student came and said, hey, we found this new app? Because, I mean, let's be real, your apps are getting developed every single day, sometimes even by the kids. So what is going to be the approval process for something to be added to that list? Because once a year, I feel like we'd be chasing things that were already have come and gone, if that makes sense, from an app standpoint.
Yeah.
The way I interpret it, and I may be interpreting it wrong, is what you're using in an instructional setting. So what is a teacher using to enhance the instruction happening in the classroom, not necessarily individual or class assignments.
So if something new comes up in December, can a teacher come to y'all to get it approved and added to the list, or is it going to have to wait until an approval process?
I think there's two components there, Mr. Evans. I think the first thing is what's on the district website, we would update on a continuous basis.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, the law requires that we report it to the State Department of Education once a year.
That's all.
And that part's more like a,
Mr. Lincoln?
more of a parent notification requirement than it is like an approved list. Like when you read through what they did, and I talked to TSBA about this at length, and the intention of that is more of a notification to parents as to what programs we're using, as opposed to like an approval process is what we're banning and all that.
Just as a kind of a follow-up, because when he said that, it made me think of our, anything that's on our list that's like, hey, we can use, well, we're going to make sure that we also have that so that they can download it into the App Store on their iPads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these are going to be web driven anyway, I think. But yeah. But you're right. There's going to be a million
at
apps.
least 3 steps behind them on this.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. You know, I will say that, you know, I look at this and like a number of board members said, I appreciate us being proactive, trying to find ways to utilize AI to better our students' knowledge. I obviously have some concerns about it. Obviously, it's in businesses. You see it in most software that's out there. You know, we all have computers right now that we walk around with every day. And I look around, we've probably all been at restaurants or gone out with sports teams, and you don't see the kids talk anymore. They're on their phones playing games, right? I think most of their communication is when they're playing video games against each other and talking. But, you know, I do have worries that AI, you know, do kids stop learning how to write? You know, they already don't talk to each other. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to continue to watch. And that's the one thing I like about this policy, is that it's open-minded and that it allows us to try to improve what we do and what we offer on an ongoing basis. So I think this is a good place to start.
Yeah, it's funny, Mr. Dance, that you say that, because on Friday, I had to go get tip money for the wedding. And I had to like walk into a bank because I didn't know you can't go through a drive-through anymore. Or at least my bank doesn't have drive-throughs anymore with teller service. You have to go in the bank. And I got in there and I was like, I can't remember the last time I had to get money. So I had to ask him, like, do I make it to cash or do I make it to myself? And then I had to think about writing in cursive on everything because I haven't done it in probably a decade. And it does make you wonder, like, and I think that's the part of how do we keep things human, because education research overwhelmingly shows that physically writing something down connects it to your memory more than typing it into a device. And so we've got to figure out how to blend those two. I think, Ms. Brady, to your point, to have parts where we say, hey, we're going to put the devices down and we're going to write, we're going to think, we're going to talk, we're going to communicate, we're going to work together. We'll bring the devices in when we need them. I think that's a very good idea about how we use technology and integrate it into the classroom.
All right, next item on the agenda, discussion or action regarding a proposed revision of policy 6.205, assignment to schools upon first reading. And one thing I will mention is that, especially to our new board members, oftentimes these policies that we're providing for review are because of changes to state law, you know, or new laws that have been implemented, or revisions that we have to make based on state laws. So it's very rare that we have a new policy that we're creating out of thin air. But if you have any ideas, let us know. We're happy to talk about those too. Dr. Langford, any comments on this?
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Johnson chime in at any point. Basically, on this policy, we allow full-time employees their children are treated as in zone anywhere in the county. So if you're a full-time employee, classified or certified for Sumner County Schools, you can take your child to any school in Sumner County. We wanted to expand that. I think the relationship that we have with the Sumner County Sheriff's Office is special, and to the lengths that they go to protect our kids every day. We thought that a benefit that we could extend to the Sheriff's Office, because I can tell you there are a lot of counties and school districts that don't have the relationship with the Sheriff's Office that we do. And I think you saw, you know, as awful as it was when Sheriff Weatherford passed away untimely, and the concerns that many of us had about what would come next, seeing Sheriff Craddock come on board, you know, he's going to be a great extension into the future for the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. We wanted to propose that we adapt our policy to allow current school resource officers to have the same benefits as our full-time employees, to allow their kids to go out of zone, because a lot of times they're working at a school, you know, like let's say they're working at Lakeside Park, but their kids go to Liberty Creek. They may want to take their children to Lakeside Park with them, and it's a perk for them that helps. It's a big incentive for those. You know, we want the very best police officers, deputy sheriffs to be school resource officers. The other part is you know, this is something that has come up recently a number of times. Is once an employee's child goes to a school, they have a zone school. We wanted to. Sometimes we have problems because the kids get into trouble frequently. They show up late. They have attendance problems. The principals work with them. When you take a child out of zone, you have that child for an entire year, with the exception of director approval to move them back to their zone school. What we wanted to do is allow the principal, you know, in consultation with me, to revoke a student's ability to remain at the out-of-zone assignment if they don't meet the expectations of behavior, attendance, and grades. Those are really the only two changes in that policy. Jeremy, did I miss anything?
Ms. Hayes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I know that there's a date on here, the May 15th, for the parents, right, to submit. And it makes reference to them looking for the listing by the director of schools.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do you have a date in mind? When would they know the director is going to post out-of-zone places?
I think, Ms. Hayes, that's another area for a study session that we need to put together. You know, we had a pretty solid process. We had a committee. It was Director of Schools, Director of Instruction, Chief Student Support Officer, Ms. Dam, and we met routinely to approve or deny out-of-zone requests. And the state law changed, and it moved that to the Director of Schools. It's been muddy every time. I mean, we get the work done, but it's very hard on Ms. Spindler because she gets most of the requests. And so we need a better procedure. I'd like to have a little bit of time and come back to a study session and share with y'all, because like I think we're in a place now, my recommendation would be that we not do the lottery at Liberty Creek this year, because I think we're in a place where we're catching growth at the high school now. They're about 1,050. We'd like them to be eventually at 1,500. But as long as they're continuing to grow and expand, I don't think we necessarily need to continue the lottery there. Last year, the only other lottery schools that we had were Westmoreland Middle School and Westmoreland High School. Technically, I mean, there are a lot of ways we can go as a board. Some districts calculate, like Beach Elementary has 9 slots in 3rd grade, and they have 4 slots in 2nd grade, and they do a lottery district-wide. To this point, we haven't done that. I don't know if that's something that the board wants to do, but what we could do is put together a presentation. You know, Rutherford County does some interesting things with their choice that I think we could look at and discuss, but we probably need to do pretty early in the fall kind of a conversation about that so that we can get those dates out for parents, because it is something that they start asking about, especially kids who are out of zone currently. And let me explain for our new board members, there's 2 terms, there's out of zone and out of county. Out of zone means I'm zoned to Jack Anderson, but I go to Station Camp. Out of county, like if you get asked, you'll get this, especially if you live on a county line, you'll get asked repeatedly. Used to, like a decade ago, you could pay to come out of county to go to Sumner County Schools. We haven't done that in over a decade. So you have to, there's only 2 ways in: live in Sumner County or be the child of a full-time Sumner County employee. If we pass that. Or an SRO if we add that to our policy.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. King?
Yeah, you mentioned that grades might disqualify a student. They might be revoked from having an out-of-zone assigned school. Is that, I mean, is that just, I mean, are you just speculating? I would, that's what it sounded like. I don't, or is there really a policy that we're going to say the student has to maintain a certain GPA or they are revoked from the out-of-zone school?
I think, Mr. King, what we see a lot is a kid is out of zone because their parents' employment, and they fail 3 of their 4 classes, and they're tardy all the time, and they've got multiple disciplinary infractions. This would be something done. I don't see it being used a lot. It would be, in my mind, it would be an extreme situation where someone's taking advantage of the system.
Yeah, so the principal would just, they would have the discretion. I trust them. I mean,
Yeah, they would have to consult with me, and we would decide together on that. We would not use that very much.
Mr. Lacy?
I was just going to ask Dr. Langford, how, I guess, strict or will you be on this process if they appeal, or they come to you and ask to transfer from one school to the next? Are you going to be pretty lenient, or?
Are you talking about like out of zone or for employee?
Yeah, if they're, say they're zoned for Portland East and they want to go to a different elementary school, or?
Yeah, we honestly, Mr. Lacy, we try to look at it case by case, and some of it depends on how crowded the schools are. Like right now, there are certain schools in Hendersonville, Gallatin that you're not going to go to unless it's an absolute emergency, because there's just not room. We try to look like if we're, for instance, if they want to go to, let's say Bethpage, and they want to be in 3rd grade, but Bethpage Elementary is at 22 or something like that, we may not do it just because we don't want to have to add a teacher, because of an out of zone. And so we try to balance that. At the same time, for instance, like if a kid is at Jack Anderson or Burris, like if a kid's at Burris and they want to go to Beach Elementary, there's a good reason, we'll probably consider that one a little bit more deeply because it helps us manage our growth. But we're pretty strict on the out of zone thing. Like it has to be a pretty good reason, just because it's not, what you don't want to do. What I have learned, like when I was principal at White House, we used to have to designate a school to be the out of zone, where you could take out of zones in the county, and that was White House. At that time, Station Camp was running like 1,800 students. So I didn't have to get Dr. Phillips' approval because I was the open enrollment. It was up for me to manage based on my class sizes. I felt like if I took 5 kids from Station Camp, it reduced the, so I, as a principal, when we had that policy, was pretty lenient on taking kids, because sometimes I thought kids just needed a second chance and a fresh start. But the law's changed on that now, so we're much tighter on that, but I do think it's something where we can work together and kind of discuss what kind of guidelines. But I think, Norma, you can jump in here. I think the thing is that there's so many different, it's hard to write a policy that would catch all the nuances that because you say you want to absolutely say no, and then somebody's had something happen that's so gut-wrenching that they need to go to a different school. You don't want to be limited by policy because we want to be able to do what's right for that kid. And the best thing for that kid is to go to a different school. But then sometimes it's like, it's really convenient for me if I don't have to drive through beach traffic and I can just drop my kids off at Liberty Creek. It's like, well, no, we're not going to do that. Or my all-time favorite one was, let me clean it up. It was very truthful. I almost voted yes on this one. They said to Dr. Phillips, "Kind sir, we're not sure if you're aware, but this football team is really bad, and my son is a good quarterback, and we would love for him to go to a different school because he does not fit the culture of this school." It's like, on one hand, I was almost a yes because they told the truth, but on the other hand, it's like, no, we're not going to start. We're not going to start out of zones for athletic reasons.
Mr. Lancaster.
So, the main thing I'm thinking on this is, I really definitely 100% support SROs being included in this. Are there people at the schools now that work for us that are in a permanent building but not necessarily full time? Like, for example, are cafeteria workers considered full time?
Depends on the number of hours that they work. If they work over 30 hours, then they're full time. Bus drivers are considered full time.
And like, the only other one I guess that comes to the top of my mind, like, are the Unity or the after school people.
Yeah, those are part time.
Okay. Is there?
Your supervisors would be full time.
The reason I'm just thinking is, like, I understand, hey, why a part-time person would not be in this. Like, if you sub, as for example, you shouldn't necessarily get that benefit. But if you're fitting a needed role at a specific school, and it's like, well, I want to, I'm trying to be the after-school coordinator at Jack Anderson, which I just remember seeing that position available in the summer. But my kids, I live in beach and my kids, you know, there's a really big difference in start and stop times at that school. Just, have we considered changing the language on how we define that to where it would not necessarily be part-time, but like permanent people in a building, I guess?
Yeah, we've never really seriously considered it because it creates, we have?
Part-time.
Yeah.
We have had.
Can you turn your microphone on, Ms. Brown?
Just to be very honest, we've had a lot of people try to get in the system through the part-time option. Just to be really honest.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and that's why it's like,
and it's administratively very large task.
And what happens a lot of times is somebody will take a part-time job. They do it sometimes on full-time, but it's easier doing a part-time job. They'll take a 4-hour position. They'll work for a month, get their child in the school that they want, and they'll quit. And then it puts us in the position, it's not best for that child to have to go back to a different school. And you know, we try to work so that we make that change in a way that's best for the kid. But you know, you're also talking about significant more amount of motion, and probably to schools that are already very crowded.
So is that, I guess the workaround around that would be not to put it specifically in policy that way, but if someone was like, hey, I've been the Unity teacher over here for a year and I plan on
I
being
can
here
speak to
next year.
the Unity and childcare positions.
Or, I don't know what.
Well, those
I
are
get that.
those are specific to the school, and it would be very difficult to stay after school and work at that program if your child was at a different school. And so, oftentimes, we are able to accommodate them on the location of the school they're assigned to. They apply specifically for that school location, and so usually they've chosen a match for them. And so that's not been an issue for those positions because they say, I want to work at this school, and we're like, great, that's the position that's open.
Yeah, and I think it's like the way that we can handle that is they could just apply for a regular out of zone. Wouldn't necessarily be connected to their employment. Yeah, it's hard for us to say because we've told a lot of people on part-time employment no. It would be something though, like we do try, like if it creates extreme hardship for a parent, we try to work with a parent to get it approved. A lot of the ones that we reject are, you know, like it'd be easier for my mother to pick up the kids if they went to Portland West instead of Portland East or something like that. And, you know, we try not to operate off of convenience. We try to operate off of, you know, because it's also like we staff teachers and support staff and everything that based on numbers. And it's hard to create a lot. I mean, I think it's something we can certainly look at and research, but in the past when we've looked at it, especially some of those part-time positions, it opened it up for unintended consequences. That was a problem.
All right, next item on the agenda, discussion or action regarding a proposed revision to policy 5.300, non-FLMA leave upon first reading.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So these next three are just tweaks from our HR department to update current law, current practice. We can try to field your questions or we can write them down and ask them for Mr. Ott for next meeting.
Any questions? All right, next item, discussion or action regarding proposed revision of policy 5.118, background investigations upon first reading. Again, as Mr. Johnson said, this is based on state law changes. Any questions? All right, then the last item on the agenda is discussion or action regarding a proposed revision to policy 5.602, time schedules and support personnel upon first reading. Any additional questions? All right, seeing none, we are just about to adjourn. Before we adjourn, I do want to share one thing. First, I want to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to serve as chairperson. I look forward to serving each and every one of you and having a great board. My personal job, I manage 40 salespeople, 40 plus salespeople. If you're around sales and marketing people, you know they're emotional, so I'm also a part-time therapist. And so we've been doing a lot of research and on communication. There's a gentleman named Brian Miller, been reading his book lately, and he made this comment that's really kind of stood out in my mind over the last month or so, and it says, it's not enough to care about somebody, it's not enough to understand them. They have to feel understood, they have to feel cared about. And what I want to say is as a board member, and as a chairperson, my hope for this board for the next year, the next 2 years, whether I'm leading a meeting, whether Ms. Hayes is leading a meeting, is that we really do three things. We listen, we understand, and we care. And if we can do that, I think we can continue to do some great things for the schools, for our students, for our staff, and for our parents. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. I'm excited about our new board members. Sad we lost some board members as well, but I think you guys and gals are going to do some great things over the next 4 years. And I look forward to working with each of you. And with that, we are adjourned. Unless Dr. Langford has.
Take a picture.
All right.
New board members.
Next board meeting.